Alright guys, title of this video is how to grow bigger arms. So I'm going to be going over 5 keys to building bigger arms. Let's just dive right into it. So number one thing is you need to be in a caloric surplus. Okay, you cannot build muscle without being in a caloric surplus. You cannot build muscle naturally without being in a caloric surplus. Now, that means you need to be eating more calories than you're burning to build muscle, to gain weight. Okay, and you want to do this slowly. So you want to try to figure out where your maintenance is, where your maintenance calories is. Let's say it's 2,500 calories per day. You want to eat about 500 calories more per day. That's going to allow you to gain weight slowly. Okay, if you're eating 5,000 calories a day, you're going to be more likely to gain fat, especially if your training isn't optimal. But if you're eating, let's say, 3,000 calories a day, that's going to allow you to gain weight slowly and put on the right kind of weight that way. So number one tip: eat in a caloric surplus. Eat more calories than you burn. I would suggest using an app like MyFitnessPal is what I use to track my calories. I would suggest using an app so that you know exactly how many calories you're eating. Super easy to use. You just scan in whenever you're eating. You type the food in and it tracks everything for you: protein, carbs, fat, all your macros. In terms of macronutrient breakdown, I don't want to get into this too much, but I would suggest 1 gram per pound of body weight, and then the rest can just be broken up in carbs and fat. That's going to be, specific to the way that what you prefer. I would suggest not going all fat and zero carb, or all carb and zero fat. Like, you need both those macronutrients. Kind of figuring out what works for you. For me, moderate amount of carbs and moderate amount of fats, like pretty even distribution. Maybe a little bit heavier carbs is better for me. But key takeaway here: eat in caloric surplus. Okay, you cannot lose weight and build bigger arms at the same time. That is not going to work unless you're very, very early on in your bodybuilding or training career. Then that might be possible, or if you're using performance enhancers. But let's just assume you're natural. You need to be in a caloric surplus. All right, tip number 2. This is a little bit unorthodox, but flexibility, especially shoulder flexibility. Okay, so first of all, for biceps specifically, if you have a tight pressing region like this, your chest, your front delt, your traps, all these things, if this is tight, you're not going to be able to fully stretch your bicep or fully contract your bicep. Okay, very important. If you can't fully stretch and fully contract your bicep, you're not going to get optimal development in that muscle. Okay, so what you need to do is do a lot of chest opening stretches. So you put your hand on the wall and you turn that way, and you feel a pull across here, or you put your hand on a table like this and stretch down like that. Feel it in your front delt. There's also the one with when you grab the broom and you bring it up behind you like that. That's going to stretch out that whole area. Okay, so you want to make sure you do those 3, right? The chest one, the front delt one, and the one with the broom like that for your biceps, and this whole pressing area. Doing those 3 stretches every single day. Okay, and you want to hold those for at least 40 seconds to a minute. Aim for a minute, you'll probably end up doing 40 seconds. Okay, so you really want to be able to open up like this so that you can fully stretch and fully contract your bicep. Okay, that tip there was huge for my bicep development. Absolutely huge. I always had awful biceps because my arms are super long, really stubborn to grow. But when I started stretching that, opening up, the pump, the pain, the pump I got in my biceps when training, out of this world. So that's for biceps. Now for triceps, it's going to be kind of the opposite, right? It's going to be the other side. So you're going to want to stretch your medial delts and your rear delts. Okay, and the way you do that is you're going to grab a wall. All right, hope you can see me here. You're going to grab a wall and you're going to put your arm on the wall here, and you're going to lean down and sink into this. Sink towards the wall, bringing this hand back, further back. Okay, so you're going to sink down into it. You should feel it all along your shoulder. Okay, and you're going to hold that for 40 seconds. Same thing with the other arm after. Okay, that's stretch number 1. There's 2. The second one is you're going to do this Beyonce single ladies thing. You put your hand back here. Elbow's going to go against the wall, and you're going to sink your chest into this arm. So you're going to try to kind of roll your shoulder forward, sink into this, towards this elbow. This elbow pushes against the wall. This chest comes forward, sinks in. You're not going to have to, it's a very subtle movement. You're not going to have to go forward too far to feel this movement. okay? And the same thing, you're gonna wanna do at least 40 seconds for each of those stretches. I promise you, the contraction you get in your tricep will be huge. The stretch you get in your tricep, you'll feel pain in your arms that you have never felt before if you have stubborn arm development. If you think about it this way, I can't, for example, overhead triceps extension. If I can't get my elbow back here in a stretched position to perform this extension exercise, if I can't get it back here in a stretched position, I'm working my shoulder. My elbow's up here and I'm moving around like this. That's a shoulder movement. If I get peak stretch of my tricep, I can't get a peak stretch of my tricep if my elbow isn't all the way back. And I can't contract it I can't get as deep a contraction if I don't have the flexibility to go back here and contract it. This is the peak contraction. This is the peak stretch of the tricep. So that's tip number 2. Increase flexibility, especially in your shoulders. Right? The whole shoulder region is going to unlock that arm pump, unlock that arm mind-muscle connection that you truly need for, maybe not for strength, but you do need it for arm development, and that's what we're talking about here. Number 3, higher repetitions. Okay, if you have stubborn arms and they're not growing, you need to go lighter on the weight and higher on the reps. I found my shoulders were always dominant over my arms, so I found that if I went heavy in biceps, for example, I just ended up swinging. I ended up swinging like this and using my front delt. If I switched to 20 reps, everything 20 reps, lighter weight and perfect form, stretch, squeeze, no elbow movement at all, perfect form, and I'm telling you, my biceps, I could see the difference within a couple weeks, right? Really helped my bicep development. So lower that weight, check the ego at the door, okay? Forget about what everyone else is saying. Forget about people judging you. No one cares about you at the gym. Okay, they're too busy concerned with themselves. Nobody is judging you at the gym. I'm telling you, when I first started out, I grabbed 10 pound dumbbells and I'd go to failure at 20 reps on 10 pound dumbbells. Perfect form, perfect reps, really helped my development. Same thing, skull crushers. I would grab 20 pound bar and I'd do full stretch and full squeeze, super slow, 20 reps. Like 3 second positive, 3 second negative. And the pump I got in my arms and the development that I got because of those higher reps and because of that mind-muscle connection, amazing. Number 3 was higher repetitions. Number 4, frequency. Okay, if you have stubborn arms, this is anecdotal. This was worked for me. My caloric surplus point, that's a no-brainer. Okay, that's for everybody. Anecdotally, frequency is not going to be for everybody, but for me, I increased the frequency of my arm training. I did it twice, sometimes 3 times per week. Okay, so if you're going lighter weights and higher reps, you're not going to failure every time. You can naturally train arms 3 times a week. So when I started doing that, I really started seeing big development in my arms. I would do arms on their own day, and I would do them 2, sometimes 3 times per week. And I really noticed, my arms started blowing up. So I would suggest twice, maybe 3 times per week. Make sure you're really stretching those shoulders, stretching triceps, stretching biceps, so you're able to recover from that. Make sure you're in a surplus, obviously, but I would say try higher frequency just to build up that mind-muscle connection and see how it goes from there. But for me, that frequency really worked. So it means that if you're doing arms 3 times a week, you're gonna have to lower the frequency of the other body parts a little bit or lower the overall volume of the other body parts. But if you have lagging arms, like someone like me that had lagging arms and wasn't blessed genetically for arms, you can afford to do that because we're talking about bringing up a lagging body part here. You can afford to lower the frequency a little bit on the other body parts, get the arms caught up. And point number 5, my last point, I mentioned it actually earlier, train arms first or alone. So by that I mean, if you're doing a push-pull leg split, if you're doing push, by the time you get to, you've done chest, you've done shoulders, by the time you get to triceps, I mean those for me at least, those triceps are totally toasted. They're not fresh and they're not working optimally. And not to mention, this whole pressing region is super tight. Like, it's going to be hard to get that full contraction out of that tricep, especially when it's been working so much in the pressing. I would say have arms, have biceps and triceps on their own day, or train them first. So if I'm doing a pull day, maybe I'll do biceps first, and then I'll do back. If my back is ahead of my biceps, I can afford to do that because I want to train the muscle that I need to bring up or the muscle that I care about more. I train it first when it's fresh, and when all my other body parts aren't tight, so I can access that muscle better. I'm training arms on their own day, 3 times a week, higher reps alone. Have arms have their own day. That way, biceps are fresh because it's the first or second thing you're doing. Triceps are fresh because it's the first or second thing you're doing. They have their own day. They're not getting pre-fatigued with your pressing or your pulling. You're gonna train arms, they're gonna have their own day. You're gonna do them at least 2 times a week, maybe even 3 times a week. You're gonna go higher reps, so 20 repetitions, at least 20 repetitions. Perfect form reps. Light, perfect forms. Focus on that pump, focus on that mind-muscle connection. To focus on your mind-muscle connection, you're gonna improve the flexibility in your shoulders. Okay, you've gotta do that before and after the workout. 40 seconds, all those stretches I showed you guys, 40 seconds before and after the workout. At least once or twice a day, you gotta do these stretches. Even on non-training days, even on days when you're not training arms, do these stretches. You're gonna notice the benefits, I promise you. Most important thing, you cannot build muscle on a caloric deficit. You can burn fat on a caloric deficit, you cannot gain muscle on a caloric deficit. You have to be in a caloric surplus. Track your calories, make sure you're eating at least 300 calories over your maintenance. Okay, figure out what your maintenance is. Tons of calculators online, use the scale. You know, track for a week, see if you gain weight, lose weight. The scale is your friend. You need to be gaining, half a pound to a pound of body weight per week is my suggestion if you're really looking to bring those arms up. All right, guys, thanks for watching.